Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, GitLab. I am Christopher Leffoltz. I am the VPD responsible for the development department. And this is the development group conversation. It is March 2nd, 2021. Please look into the agenda document for adding questions. There should be two links in there. One is to a video if you want to listen to that in fast forward mode quickly while we're talking. You can be free to do that. And there's as well a slide deck where we have information around that. So I'm looking forward to your questions. And because we believe in iteration, we iterated overnight, and Tim added a couple slides, which is awesome. So the first question is from actually me. Tim, can you give an overview to slide 14 and 15?
Yes, happy to do so. And yeah, as I wrote it, I was a little bit excited about the results that we just got in from the measurements. And so I simply added them as I didn't want to wait for another couple of weeks to share them on a wider perspective. So what are those results? The results are simply a little bit of research that happened over the last couple of weeks of simply combining multiple ideas that were going on here and there over the last couple of months into one POC to figure out what would be some results that we would be getting out of implementing some ideas in the near future. And as I really wanted to know that, we started with a clear focus on measuring workflows, because I strongly believe we have really focused over the last year a lot on the loading performance, which is really important, because if you can't see anything, you can't click anything. So this is really the next iteration of getting the overall user experience into a better place, simply by improving step by step the workflows that users, so you and me, and also all our customers are doing on a daily basis, improving them step by step. This can be done through UX, so really improving how to find stuff, how stuff is going on. But on the other hand, and that's the development part, is really by the actual application performance. And that's what this research was about. So we started to build a framework of measuring a full workflow. And this is really the base definition, as especially a repository browser is quite easy to really start off measuring. Okay, you go to a project, you go 2 directories deep, you click on a file, you go back and you click on another file. How long does the whole process take? And how long would this compare to a new solution? And the new solution is combining. Currently, we have 2 different, one view app and one non-view app, and we are basically switching back and forth. And the idea is to combine both into one. And through that, we can use some tricks, some optimization, some magic tricks to simply do a little of preloading. So something that we were talking about, I believe we touched this topic already like 1.5 years ago in one of those group conversations, is mouse over preloading. So this is something we can't do really at the moment due to our caching and how everything is set up. But what we are trying to leverage is the fact that if you mouse over a link or anything that you click, your brain still takes some time to actually tell your finger to click on the mouse, and then this goes through, etc. So this is on average like 250 milliseconds, I believe. So if we simply wait, if someone has hovered over a link for 100 milliseconds, we can already say, okay, there's a very high probability that this person will actually click on that thing. And then we go off and start already like loading the background stuff. And going from there, the next idea is integrating the Monaco editor that we are already using in the Web IDE and in the single file editing, to use that for showing code, because then we have a unified experience. And the big advantage is we are offloading all the line highlighting, all the code formatting, which is pretty heavy on our backend, to the front end, to the client, where we are already doing this. This was something that we never had a couple of years back, that was doing proper line highlighting. But this is highly optimized. That is the same editor that VS Code is using, that GitHub is using in all their applications. So this enables us to load really huge files. Anyone who has ever edited Team Yammer, this now literally takes 400 milliseconds to go from the click to actually seeing the 30,000 line file. And then this is the next advantage. we can then take and integrate the single file editing experience. So as we already have the editor on the screen, we just switch from read-only to write mode. So the switch to editing a thing takes literally 100 milliseconds. And those things were measured, and the results are basically from the POC of measuring this locally. So this is not final numbers. We even hope that the final numbers might be better. So what we have seen is that we are 28% faster. In some experiments, it was even faster on just navigating through the whole thing. On opening a large file, so the Team Yammer file was 57% faster overall, and editing a file, so really going until you can edit a thing, was 38% faster. And all the research that we are doing there is also something that we want to take also over to some more focused workflows like Plan. Plan is also, you are most probably switching back and forth between your board and your detail page. You're switching most probably back and forth between your MR list and your MR as an engineer. And those are things that we could combine and preload already in a quite intelligent way and predictive way, some stuff, so that the whole experience feels more instant. If you click on the links of the comparison videos, you can even see basically the current version, how it compares to the new version and stuff like that, that can give you more insights. And yeah, Epic is written. I handed it off to the engineering team of source code. They are going to start looking at it and weighing what is actually needed to get this to production, hopefully as soon as possible.
Thanks, Tim. And late breaking changes or inputs is always accepted. The only request I have is that actually the slide deck is editable. So the only request I have is that you don't delete the slide deck. But we believe in real-time iteration and collaboration. So it's always welcome to get inputs. Sam, do you have a point you want to make?
Yeah, I just, that's really great, Tim, and thanks for walking us all through that. I was wondering if you had any kind of thoughts or expectations about how it may or may not affect the SUS score, the UX score that we run. I know performance in there has been a theme.
Yeah, I think that this is, I would say, 50% of the SaaS experience that flows into there is simply loading, and the other part is the action. So if you click on something and there is just a loading circle for 20, 30 seconds, you have no clue if this is actually going to work or how long this takes, etc. This is a pretty bad experience. And anything that we can do, especially if browsing through files, if browsing through merge requests, this is your main work during the day. All those major workflows, if we are really focusing on those, I think that's where we can make also the biggest impact on the SaaS score, because that's what will stick with the user after they have used GitLab. They can, if they click on a link once a month or so for editing some admin settings somewhere, yeah, I think they will forget this quite soon if this takes 10 or 15 seconds. But your daily task, everything that we can improve, if you just combine it, if we make this 1 minute faster over your whole day, this is already like a couple of minutes per week and per month, etc. And this really multiplies. And combining this also with everything that UX is working on making stuff easier and making stuff more easier to access and more streamlined, especially around the things. I think that's where we can really gain some points in the SaaS score, I hope.
I'll just jump in and say I agree. Tim, you and I have worked really closely together for a couple of years now, and your focus on UX is so very valuable. Performance is one of the key negative themes in SUS, which is why it's part of our shared OKR this quarter. Users do care about this, and they do think about it in the context of user experience. So like Tim, I expect as we continue to make these improvements, we should see a positive impact on our SUS score. And I think, frankly, our SUS score from last quarter was better than previous quarters in that we declined way less than we had. So last quarter, effectively, we're flat. Previous quarter to that, we declined by 0.6 points. Quarter before that, it was a full point. So actually, what we are seeing is an uptick in the trend. And I suspect that performance improvements were part of that.
Thanks, Christy. And yeah, we will keep pushing on that, because I really believe that this is something we really can also focus with the data team, with the telemetry, everyone that is involved, of what are the major workflows, what is everyone doing, and define personas to not only get this as input for product on what features to build and what to prioritize, but also get this to engineering to rather focus on, okay, let's prioritize this part because we can streamline this thing, or get also more feedback, because performance, in my experience, is not only about the actual thing, and sometimes you can't make stuff faster, but it's about the perception. So if something that we were discussing around real time, I strongly believe in, is if we can have, for example, all the stuff that is currently happening, if you click the merge button, and can display this to the user and say, hey, by the way, what we are doing right now is we are taking this branch and taking that stuff, and we have 927 changes, and we have already 300 done, and now 400 done. This is a much better experience than this current fire and forget, where you click and it's like spin, spin, spin. And I think that those are really where all those nitty parts can come together.
I like, Tim, that you made a really clear connection. So we do have two themes we're focused on for the shared OKR. One is visibility of system status, and the other is performance. But what you're doing is drawing a really clear line saying to users, it's all performance. Visibility of system status is this close to actual back-end, front-end performance. And that is a beautiful call out from you.
One more question. I heard there was some discussion of creating a working group focused on front-end observability. Any thoughts on, are there gaps there? Are there ways that more observability and instrumentation in the front end could help accelerate or maintain this?
Yeah, and I know the discussion is about Sentry, because we have turned this off some time ago because we saw some performance impact and no one was literally using it to some extent. The problem to some parts in front and observability, especially with Sentry, is you need to be very active to have a very clear input, because you have something, you are not running on a server that is every time the same server. So you are running something in the wild, which means in Sentry you will see tons of problems that just come from browser plugins. Your browser plugins are actually messing one-to-one with the code that you're running right now. So this means if there is Grammarly jumping in right when you are trying to post some comments over to the server and is changing something in between, and this is throwing an error, then you will see this right away in the Sentry. So I think if we want to do this, let's get started. That was also my recommendation. Let's get Sentry running up again and have some dedicated people. It's a fantastic tool, but it takes a lot of input, especially on the front-end side, to make something meaningful out of the data and out of everything that comes out of the production. But I totally agree. It's important.
Thanks for that detailed explanation, Tim, as well as answering questions around that. We finished item 1. Are there any other questions we want to cover, as item 2 is still blank, but if you would like to throw in a question right now, feel free to.
I can type mine after. I'm going to continue on with number 1. So Tim, for my knowledge, that work sounds amazing. Was that worked on by multiple groups, like across the different stages, or were there certain groups that focus on this more? How does that break down?
Do you mean the performance work in general, or just this POC thing right now? So that
performance work in general.
Yeah, performance work in general is a very combined area at the moment. So we have, I would say, 5 to 6 different initiatives that are running anyhow right now. That are running in general. This is the classic stuff that is a major topic between UX and all front-end engineering around moving everything to the pajamas components, because this is not only helping the overall UX, but this is also helping, on the other hand, performance, as we can reduce all the libraries. We have classical technical depth work going on of getting to jQuery Slim and getting a couple of other things out of the system that we are still using. So this is like the ongoing work where simply engineers jump in. We have a DRI. So one specific front-end engineering manager is basically the person driving that and pushing that forward. And then other engineers jump in. Sometimes they are super easy. We had something that took us 6 to 7 months, which were the Font Awesome icons. And sometimes this is now really specific to a specific area where we are now really now in the next step, focusing just on specific tasks in dev. And but we really want to share, especially, and that's why we try to invent also more tools of measuring that, is to leverage all the knowledge. And that, I think, is also another bigger problem at the moment, not a problem, but a big task at hand, to share that knowledge of everything that is coming out of the different groups and what's going on, to share this, especially in the right meetings, agendas, so that everyone knows about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. It seems like development and UX and quality and I'll do such a good job communicating and working together. Like, it sounds like you have a lot of cross stage initiatives. So that's really cool to hear about.
Yeah, in particular, I would say if you look at most of our OKRs, we're still working on doing this more formally throughout the department. But if you look at, particularly at the higher levels in the organization, you'll see cross-organization OKRs. And typically we have between 2 to 3 KRs spread usually between the ARR and the product themes of the OKRs. So yeah, it feels like the teams are doing a pretty good job of making sure that we're prioritizing appropriately. Though we do have some additional initiatives in works around that, as we had the AMAs last week to kind of talk about how do we better prepare for the upcoming quarter so that we have OKRs aligned. Excellent. This will be the longest one question group conversation. Originally, I was going to make the joke that it was going to be the shortest group conversation, but it's actually, we've gotten pretty long on the first question. So love to hear if there's any other questions. If folks have any feedback for me about content they'd like to see also, I'd be welcome to that as well.
Well, we can wrap this up then, if that works. I hope everyone has a good day.
Yep. Everybody have a great day, and